Welcome to It's This or Drugs, where we talk about books we're reading to survive these terrible, terrible times.
See, it was beautiful. You did a great job.
Yep.
Totally.
You want to try again?
Messed up already. What did I say wrong? Survive?
I think you said survive.
Yeah.
Try again. I think it's go again.
It doesn't matter. Listener, I apologize.
So now we introduce ourselves.
This is Christina.
Hannah here.
Sarah.
And everyone's favorite, Amanda.
I am so excited about the book we are discussing this week. There was a little bit of a mad dash for everybody to finish because we recorded a little bit sooner than we typically would, but we all did it. So I'm doing clapping hands for everyone. We did it.
Yeah, talk about a photo finish. That's for sure.
It's nice, though, because it's fresh. Sometimes when we talk about books, I've read like 2 other books after I read the book.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like, when Captain America gets juiced, like he's a little scrawny guy, and then that's kind of what I feel like. I stepped into the chamber and had it all just downloaded into me. So I did get the gist, but when it was going at 1.75 speed, I was like...
I was trying to read it, finish reading it last night in the truck, and I always forget how bumpy the truck ride is compared to my vehicle. And I'm like, no matter how I held my Kindle, it's like going like this, and I'm like, gonna give myself a migraine trying to read it, but I couldn't stop. But I did finish it. Actually, I finished it. I didn't have to stay up late. I finished it at like 9 o'clock last night.
Nice. Amanda, when did you finish it?
I rolled into the finish line about 8:30 this morning, but I did stay up until 2 o'clock listening.
Oh my gosh!
Was like playing. He's like, I don't know if I want to stay up that late, but I'll play some Kingdom Hearts because he's playing through the first Kingdom Hearts on the Switch, and so he was playing Kingdom Hearts, and I was just laying on the couch with my headphones in, just listening. And I was scared to speed it up until I like really had a firm grasp on the characters' names. But I was like, I can't stay up 3 hours. I can't do that. So the 1.75 speed turned out to be doable for me.
When I first started the audiobook, I texted Amanda because I know Amanda typically listens, and I said something like, I thought I was just, there's not a kind word to say about myself, like I just didn't understand it, but I realized I was listening at 1.5 times the speed, and my ears, my very American ears, were like, what are they saying? And then I slowed it down to regular speed, and it was just fine, but I felt very silly. And by the end of it, I think I was only listening at 1.1 or 1.2 times.
Well, I got a nice surprise reading your name pronunciation thing in the document you sent, because I was like, oh, I was saying that wrong, that wrong, that wrong. And I told myself several times while I was reading it, I've got to look up how to say these because I know I'm saying them wrong in my head. But the ones that I thought I was saying wrong, some of them that I was sure I was saying right, I was saying wrong. So yeah, good times.
We haven't told everyone what the name of the book is yet, so I feel like I should go ahead and say that the book is called The Maid and the Crocodile by Jordan Ifueko. Did I say that right, Christina? Fact checker?
Yeah, Ifueko.
Okay. Ifueko, thank you.
And also, this will come as a shock to the listener, but this is also something we've not mentioned. We are siblings. We are sisters.
And
yeah, we didn't talk about that last time.
So white.
And so white, yes.
Yeah.
And so white, so unbelievably white. I go out in the sun for 2 seconds and I'm burned.
Yeah, I relate to that. So before we talk about the book, does anybody have any funny stories or things that happened in the last... It's been 2 weeks since we did this, so not that long.
All I can think about is sad things. Sorry.
I would say there was no humor in this week. There has to have been. It's something I'll probably laugh about in a year.
Oh.
The anxiety was high. The anxiety was high. It's like that line from that Lizzo song. You know, girl, I'm about to have a panic attack was basically the theme song of the week, but only that one line. Just
I
that line
did
of the song.
feel that. I woke up with a panic attack. I texted Hannah about that earlier this week. So, and it was a morning time panic attack. Typically it's like 3 a.m. I'm waking up
Ooh,
thinking crazy.
yeah. No.
I'm still coming down from, I had to wash my hair this morning and in the middle of postpartum hair loss.
Okay, I'm
And
so sorry. I'm so sorry.
again, it's like I have to laugh about it so that I don't cry about it, right? Because my hair is longer than it usually is. And, you get your conditioner in and you're like rinsing it out and you kind of gather your hair. And then every time I like pull my hand through my hair and then I look at it, it's just, I'm going to throw up. How is this much hair falling out of my head? There's going to be nothing left. And this is the third time, and I'm still having these like, this hair is never going to come back. It's so much hair in my hand.
Yeah, that's hard. I lose a lot of hair every time I shower.
Yeah, and you have super long hair, and so when it's
Mhm.
longer, it looks like even more. And that's why I end up chopping my hair after I have a baby pretty much every time because I know it's going to start falling out, and when it's shorter, it just doesn't seem like as much when you're holding it in your hand or looking at it, that classic like you get out of the shower and it's all over your legs. All stuck to the back of your legs. Oh, all right.
Yep.
At what point do we consider the drug portion? As in
Well,
it's
it
this,
depends
You
on what
mean
you
like
think.
considered taking drugs instead of just reading books?
it's this or drugs.
It depends on, what do you consider a drug, right? Should I say something really homeschooled again? Vitamin D. Go outside in the sun.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay.
So I have a fun book-ish question since we talked about our genre of choice last week. And my question is, what is your go-to beverage for a good reading session? And
That's a difficult one. A good reading session to me is when I am sucked into the book so completely that I forget to eat and I just blow through it in, a few hours. But if I'm purposefully reading, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to read.
Instead of accidentally reading, as we all do.
Well, it feels accidental because I just can't stop myself. It's impulsive. It's like, oh my gosh, this book, I have to keep reading it. And so I do. And I don't think about anything else. I don't hear what's going on around me. So there are
We've
no
all been
beverages
witness.
involved.
We've all been witness to this, and Christina.
Yeah,
Like-
Christina reads books like the the rainbow sponge infomercial lady.
No.
Some listener will understand this reference. Well, there's this old infomercial for like the rainbow paint sponge, and she's like doing the patterns. She's like, my gosh, I can't believe that's amazing to every little like stroke that she's doing. That's Christina.
yeah, I remember.
Meanwhile, everything's crumbling around her. Children are shouting. She's in her own universe.
The rainbow sponge.
Survival of an introvert in a world where there is no alone time.
Heard.
But otherwise, coffee. I love coffee. I will drink coffee all day, all night.
Man, I forgot that
Coffee.
we were answering a question just then.
Sorry.
I forgot that you asked something. I actually do have an answer. I have been drinking bone broth hot chocolate for the last couple of months. I gave it a shot, and Amanda's making the face that I feel like most people do when they're like, why would you ruin hot chocolate? Okay, but it's really good. I do it with beef broth. And if you think about it like, oh, this is going to replace hot chocolate, it's probably not going to be a great experience. But if you think of it as like, oh, it's going to be like a sweeter kind of chocolatey version of bone broth, then it's good. It's really good. I like it, but I don't like super duper sweet drinks anyway. And it's like a savory sweet kind of thing. Anyway, don't knock it till you've tried it. It's really good. And it's good. It feels like it makes me feel like I'm doing something good for myself because it is really good for you. And I can't take my vitamins right now because they make my baby's poop like bright green and he's like super gassy. So I just try to get the nutrition in where I can. It's good. Stop making faces. It's good. You have to try it.
I can barely speak right now.
Yeah, so this whole time, Christina and Amanda have been holding their mics away from their faces, trying not to muddy our sound. I am actually sipping on bone broth right now. And
I like bone broth. I don't have any qualms with bone broth. I think it's good.
You like hot chocolate? You like bone broth?
But here's the deal. Already when I'm drinking bone broth, my burps taste feral. They taste disgusting. So I can only imagine what a hot chocolate bone broth burp.
Why is it making you burp so much?
Oh my gosh.
I just burp a lot in general. I don't know.
Okay,
That's
well.
disgusting. But I'm so glad that it's working out for you.
I am just picturing when Christina's husband, so when I told him about how I drink bone broth every morning, because it's an easy 10 grams of protein, and what you said, Sarah, about doing something for yourself, that feeling, the value of it cannot be understated, especially when you have a lot going on in your life. But I watched Christina's husband use the chicken bone broth and add it to his coffee. And he drank it like a champ, but he did say it could be better and that the beef was better. So I'm imagining maybe the chocolate could be better than the coffee. But if you're trying to get caffeine, then, well, I guess there's a little bit in chocolate. Anyway.
So Sarah likes drinking bone broth hot chocolate while she's reading. Anything else? Any other beverage?
I mean, I've been drinking coffee this whole time, but we're not reading, we're talking. So
I have been, much to the chagrin of many of you, I think, enjoying a canned Diet Coke every once in a while. And the eyebrows are in heaven.
Ooh, I love Coke Zero, not Diet Coke, but Coke Zero.
disgusting.
No.
Listener,
Diet Dr. Pepper.
And when I'm not doing that, I'll have an element in my giant thing of water.
right. That
a
cancels
coffee.
it out.
It doesn't cancel it out. I'm trying to enjoy. You know what? Diet Coke is my drug of choice. Diet Coke is my thing that I do just for myself.
Listener, Hannah and I are morally against drinking Diet Coke or Coke Zero. It's a moral issue, and it's a hill I will die on.
This conversation is making my stomach hurt a little bit.
Also, Diet Coke, you think bone broth hot chocolate? Diet Coke is disgusting. It is so disgusting. It tastes objectively horrible. All right. Rant over. Next question.
So I didn't answer the question yet.
Yeah,
and as we were
guys,
talking
what
about
the
it,
heck?
Back to Hannah.
I was just picturing myself drinking a beverage while I'm listening to a book, and it is like a flurry of chaos when I'm listening to books. I am in the kitchen cooking breakfast, washing dishes, sweeping the floor because I got something stuck to my foot, forgetting that I left the sausage on the stove. Now the air filter is really loud because the AQI just went up to 400 because the house is filled with smoke. So I think I'm usually drinking 3 things at the same time. I usually have a glass of water. A cup of decaf coffee has been my lately. That's been my go-to because there's a local shop that actually does good instant coffee. and bone broth. But if I'm sitting down at night and maybe I'm crocheting while I'm reading, then I do like a nice glass of Cabernet. Love a good cab. Yeah. Or I like Pinot Noirs. Just a good red.
I would also like to say that I don't really drink any beverage while I'm listening to my audiobook. I'm also doing a lot of things, typically laundry. But I did want to say that divisive thing about Diet Coke because I feel like it'll be good for our listenership. So
thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome.
So we're going to switch things up a little bit when we start talking about the book and do our rating at the beginning so that if anybody is on the fence about reading the book and wants to hear about it before committing, and you can just turn it off before we get into the spoilers, you can do that. So I picked this book, The Maid and the Crocodile, because it is February, which is Black History Month, and I wanted to pick a book that was written by a Black author, and I wanted to pick fantasy because, first of all, yes, read all of the books by Black authors, read about anti-racism and all of those things, but also Black people write really good books too in all the other genres. And so I wanted to, again, just pick a book that was written by a Black author in the fantasy genre because I feel like there's less representation there and less access. It's a lot of white men who've gotten a lot of press when it comes to those genres. Not that they aren't also good authors. Love Tolkien. But again, that's why I picked this one. So I love this book. To me, it was a great blend of good prose, commentary on social issues, and I don't usually like love stories, but this one had a cute little one in it, and I really enjoyed it. So I actually put this one as a 5 on my Goodreads because I want Goodreads to give me more books like that. That's my rating. I'm going to pass it to Christina because you look thoughtful and ready to share.
I was just reacting to you not liking love stories.
Yeah.
Because I loved the book. I loved it so much. It's just solid fantasy. She has impeccable world building. The imagery was really cool. The system of like deities and the magic that exists. I want to know more about it, having now read this and knowing that other things are out there. So yeah, 5 stars.
Got to pass the baton or the talking stick. Who's it going to?
Raise your hand. Amanda.
My rating is also going to be 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it, and I loved the audiobook was so nice, and the voice actor did an incredible job with the characters, and like the little nuances. I wish I could like, if I were a more prepared person in general, I would have checked out the digital like copy that you can read as well as the audiobook, but I didn't because I would have wanted to compare specifically the nuance of the conversation that she was having in her head. Her narration of walking through the market or just walking through Olawan City the first time before she started trying to get a job. Anyway, loved it.
I really liked it. If you are like me, you might have a hard time, and this may be just because I was really trying to finish reading it on time, but it took me a little bit to get into it because there was a lot of, it was deep fantasy, maybe, if that's the right term for it. So lots of things that were unfamiliar, terms that are unfamiliar. It took me a little longer to get into it. And I may have been able to get into it quicker if I could, A, slow down, and B, not, I'm constantly being interrupted by 3 small children. So it's really hard to get into it. But I did really like it. After about 40%, it got a lot easier to read. And I don't know, I like that some of us listen and some of us read, because I think I'm sure it's a different experience reading it, because you're not struggling with pronunciations and things like that. But there are other struggles, I'm sure, with listening to a book versus reading it. I did like it. I kind of wish I had read the other series, because I talked to Christina earlier in the week and she said there's actually another series and it's the same world, right? So if you'd read that first, you're going to be a little bit more familiar with things. So I think that probably played a part in it feeling just difficult to feel the flow.
Yeah, it is a novel in the world of the Raybearer series. When I picked the book, I was just looking at lists of debut novels, and it was on the list, and it has over 4 stars on Goodreads with many reviews. So for me, it was an easy choice. I do kind of wish, though, that we had read a little bit of the Raybearer series first. That said, the book does stand on its own, and you don't have to read the Raybearer series to be able to read this book and get so much out of it. I want to talk a little bit about the reading versus listening, because as a kid, I really struggled to learn how to read, and I have memories of reading my picture books out loud, and Christina saying, "Hannah, just read it in your head, read it in your head." And I did not understand that concept. I don't know why. I would just whisper it to myself. I would whisper the words so that I did not disturb Christina, who is over there reading chapter books, while I'm just in my level 1 reading book. So I really loved that. Well, actually, I'll pause for a second. So at this point, you can assume that there will be spoilers. So if you're going to read it, you can go ahead and turn this podcast off, and we will see you in the next one. If you're still with us, I hope you've read the book, or if not, maybe you're the kind of person who likes to hear all about it before you get into it. Yeah, I loved that Sade could not read, and there were so many other ways that she communicated, or that others found to communicate with her. And I thought it was a good representation of how do we support people who may not have accesses to the same learning resources as everybody else. Anybody have thoughts on that?
I like the representation was a super cool element to me. And then with the author's note at the end, I noticed that she had, I don't remember what the title was for this person, but it was like a cane. Someone read it who used a cane to make sure that it was like an accurate depiction of someone who would be using a cane navigating a world that was not built for them, or society that does not have them in mind, which I would argue is by and large our society as well. Like there are accommodations, but not nearly enough. But yeah, so I thought that element was really, really, really cool.
Yeah. So just a high-level overview of the book. It's about a girl named Sade who ages out of an orphanage and has to navigate this world. And it's a world where there are gods, and there are people who are touched by the gods who have powers. And Sade is disabled and has a traumatic background. And the crocodile piece comes in because there's a god who is rumored to eat girls, and villages will sacrifice their girls to this god. And the book is about Sade's encounters with this god. So one of the questions that I have is around how this book was written. How did you feel about bits of our everyday culture being written into the book? For example, when Sade is accepted into the new job and all of the amenities are chanting, "One of us, one of us, one of us." I thought it was really interesting. I have my thoughts on it, but I want to hear everybody's thoughts first, because that happened a few times throughout the book where it was like, oh, that's like part of our culture.
I like it most of the time when bits of our culture and just the world that we're familiar with make it into fantasy. Because for me, it makes that fantastical world feel closer to my reality. And it draws me in deeper because I could, it gives you emotions about it. And you're like, oh, I know that. That's happened to me in this life, in this reality that I live, in this fantastical place too, that I wish I could see and visit and sometimes live in. Sometimes fantasy worlds are terrible and you do not want to have to live your life there. This is not necessarily one of the cases. It's really cool. Most of the time I enjoy it.
Don't want to interrupt you. Sorry. Interrupting cow over here.
Moo.
On the flip side of that, yeah, like seeing Christina, you were saying that like it's nice to see some of our like elements of our reality in like a magical world. The things that I found the most interesting and intriguing were the mirrored awful elements. Like at one point they're in the garret, the amenities are in the garret, and Finrick is talking about basically being a bootlicker, but how he's gonna really make something of himself and gonna get out of, make money and be successful. And they used, the other amenities used the term pull yourself up by your sandal straps. And I was like, yeah,
Yes.
T, uh-huh. But yeah, all of the systemic and societal elements that were mirrored in this world, which I think is beautiful, because one of my favorite things, and I might be jumping the gun, but was when they were talking about using the salon, like once the hotel was like owned and operated by the employees, how they were going to use the theater space to talk about everyday, like of ordinary stories, not the stories about the gods, and like whether they're tragedies, just like real life stories. And then at the end they would discuss with the audience what could be changed about this, like just in trying to imagine a different reality, which is so cool and so important in like all liberation movements, is finding time to just imagine something different, because we're robbed of our imagination. And so this book like gets like 10 out of 5 stars for me on this, because it's just so beautiful. I was having this conversation with some friends last night, actually, before I read this part of the book. So it was so cool to have that like just reiterated in the same like fantasy book that I was reading. So cool.
Yeah, I cried a lot.
Yeah, I'm like tearing up thinking about it.
I know. I think so that for me is bringing up how she specifically wanted to tell the story of the girls who had been sacrificed, and then ask them what would you have done differently. It was essentially like a call to, how are you going to prevent this from happening to these girls? And there's so many parallels, in our current culture. And it was so beautiful the way that, gosh, just to have a win in a book too, like that, to fill you with hope and to make you think about what can I do differently. The writing in that and the way that she did that, it was so inspiring.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
One of my favorite things was when she's cleaning and all of the different names for the like mold and the pests and everything.
The spirit
Ego
silt.
rust and the joy moths and just all of the gross ones, the negative ones. Oh, I wish I could remember one of the mold ones. And how they just, you can't always see those things, but how they just can erode somebody's life. I don't know. I just really loved that because it's just so true. And we don't always think about those things. Guilt, guilt, ego, greed, ambition, whatever the ambition one was.
Yeah, it was the ego rust, I think, was one of them.
Yeah.
Ego rest.
Despair. I think despair.
Yeah,
something.
despair mold, I think, was maybe one. That was one of my favorite parts about the whole thing.
Yeah. Did anybody else have a visceral reaction to her eating the squirmy, slimy
guilt worms?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Nauseated. I was nauseated. It was awful.
It made me think of that scene in Harry Potter where Ron, isn't he he has all those slugs and he's like vomiting slugs. That's what it made me think of.
I thought you were about to say when Dumbledore is making Harry give him the poison.
Oh,
Like, whatever I say, don't stop feeding this to me.
Oh, I
like,
forgot about that. That's better, actually. That's more accurate. Oh, that's so much worse.
That's how I feel whenever my husband tries to give me a new like liquid supplement. It's always some disgusting, just disgusting taste, and that's what I feel like Dumbledore.
That's what it feels like to me when somebody says they drink Diet Coke.
Christina, you've read a ton of books, and you've probably read some that have even more of the culture represented in them. I know you said you liked it, but did you have any other thoughts on that?
Oh, no, I mean, I don't know. No, I was just well done. She did it really well. Sometimes it can be awkward because then you feel like you're trying to merge two worlds together that don't fit, right? And when there's a lot of like our pop culture and reality creeping into this fantasy world that is obviously not our world, but she did it really well. And it did remind me of like she mentions Howl's Moving Castle, because there's that moment in that book where you're listening and Hal's going through these different doors, and all of a sudden, like Sophie's describing this world, and you're like, oh wait, what? Like they're riding in this like steel contraption that is taking them, and it's terrifying, and so like she hates it. And like, oh, that's a car. And then he's wearing these odd clothes. I'm like, oh, those are normal clothes. Those are like our clothes. So the way she did it was just delightful as when it was done in Howl's Moving Castle. It was just really neat. And it came up in little ways too, like how he built an elevator and a shower. And but in a way that just makes perfect sense in that world. It was so neat.
I am crying a little bit right now because the elevator, that scene, just as somebody who has chronic pain and like my disability is not visible to people, but I still have it. There are times when I have a hard time walking up my own stairs. I crawl up them pretty often, and it's funny because I just accept that's my reality. And to see somebody get gifted something like that, oh my gosh. It was so beautiful and so well done. And Christina, I agree, because there's some books that don't do it very well. None of you will relate to this, but there's big conversation in the world of Brandon Sanderson's fans right now because his most recent book that I was reading last time, the one that's 63 hours. So I finished that. And that one has a lot of stuff that a lot of people said it's just too on the nose. It sounds like it came out of a TikTok tutorial for mental health kind of thing. And I was a little bit distracted by some of it. I don't think it was the worst, but it can be distracting because then I'm thinking too much about my own world and my own problems, and I'm not in the beautiful story of the book. So in contrast, I did feel like this was really well done. So other questions that I have. Oh, I want to go back to the Sin Salon. I had some weird feelings about the Sin Salon because I consider integrity and follow through to be something that's really important to me. And so I felt, gosh, it was so weird that this was showing up in me when this part was coming. She had committed to doing the Sin Salon, even though eating the guilt worms for one person had made her violently ill. In my head, I was like, I know this is going to go bad, but she said she was going to do it. And if she doesn't do it, I know there's conflict coming. And I don't like a lot of conflict. And so the whole time leading up to it, I was just like, this sucks. This sucks. There's like no good ending. There's no way that this is going to go right. I was very stressed about that. And I think a lot of it is that I have this works-based value. Like I get my value out of following through on my actions kind of sense of, it's a piece of my worldview that I have been trying to shake for a long time. And I felt so conflicted about all of that. I know what I want to be, but I still felt that way.
Yeah, it was, I can agree with that feeling of anxiety leading up to the whole thing, because I had a feeling, or I like hoped she wasn't going to do it, but I kept thinking, well, if she doesn't, then like you said, no matter what, something bad's going to happen if she doesn't do this. And the other amenities, like someone else is going to suffer, other people are going to suffer no matter what. But obviously glad it turned out the way that it did. I was a little bit surprised a couple of times in the book, actually, where when she didn't do the Sin Salon, and then when she egged the inn, or whatever it was called. What was it called? The inn? Okay. I was expecting there to be some fallout written about with the other amenities, like how they ended up being punished for that. And I'm kind of glad that there wasn't. I was just expecting that to be a thing. And she did allude to it, like that they're going to have to clean this up, like they're the ones who are going to have to clean this. But then it did not obviously go into any detail on that.
Yeah.
I have a question. If you are, I don't want to say something rude about myself, but maybe if you were reading it in a hurry like me, or if you don't, I don't read a ton of deep fantasy. When at the end of the book, when she started changing the narration, maybe when she was saying you instead of the way it was written changed, where she was like addressing, it sounded like she's addressing the reader now, right? Not that whole, the last like whatever chapter or two had me confused. And this feels vulnerable because someone's going to say, well, it was this, obviously. But I was feeling really confused.
I feel like that's totally fine. Like there's so much, maybe you would have had more of a chance to follow that thread if you weren't focused so much on trying to get the world built in your head.
Yeah, because I know she said she would address the reader.
So
she would say, you who are much smarter than me, or you who whatever, throughout the book, right? But when I was reading the end of the book, I knew there were those threads, but I was having a really hard time putting everything together.
So when the narration first starts, it's assumed that who she's talking to is like of high nobility, just because of what she's saying. And so I took that as like, okay, like she's like, she's assuming whoever's reading this is a very classy person. But then, this is a spoiler, I think, but like the whole thing is a spoiler, so whatever. I don't remember the big kahuna's name, whatever her majesty is.
Yeah.
It turns out she's retelling the entire story the whole time to her in that moment. So
Okay.
that's when we get up to speed.
That's kind of what I thought, and my brain went there, and I was like, is it? And then it just wasn't, I don't know, it felt in my own mind, not the writing. In my mind, it felt clumsy in my head. I felt like, also, I should say, reader, listener, I'm sleep deprived, very sleep deprived, chronically right now. And that leaches into every part of my life currently. So you saying it now, it doesn't sound that like complicated, but when I was reading it at the end, I was really struggling.
I will say also, it gets kind of fuzzy because once she leaves Her Majesty the Queen, she still is using that same narrating voice. So
pause. This can be taken out or not. Amanda is a singer and she's treating her microphone like she's singing a performance, and she's moving it really close to her face and then away from her face and really close and then away.
I'm so sorry.
It's going to affect the sound of this podcast. Sometimes when she's talking, it'll be really close to the microphone, and sometimes it'll be really far away.
Can I say a bad word?
We're going to have to edit it out.
Because there can be, I don't think that there's going to be, and I'm just saying this now, I don't think that there's going to be 1 week, one single episode where I don't up the noise somehow. Whether it's my microphone not being plugged in or me.
Do you have a stand?
Being silly. Yeah, but I wanted to be comfy. So I'm sitting on the guest bed. So I'm holding it.
I'll fix it all in production. It's fine.
I'm just giving Hannah.
I'm just thinking of Hannah. I'm like, how long is she going to spend trying to make Amanda's audio the same like level?
That setting is actually the easiest one to do. It's really not hard.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll try and do better. Maybe if I stop drinking Diet Coke, I'll hold my mic right.
Exactly.
I don't drink it all the time, okay?
So I actually lost it when I found out that she, the whole time, was telling the story to the Raybearer. Because when she was talking to the person throughout the book, saying, now you may, basically, like, you might judge me because you would have made a different decision. The whole time I was like, okay, a little bit of assumption here, but that's fine. I didn't even think that it was my brain did not go to maybe she's telling this person a story. So once that clicked in place for me, I just started crying because the gravity of it hit me.
I don't know. I already know that Hannah and Amanda cried reading this book. Maybe we should have a cry rating for the books too, because Christina, did you cry?
A little. I would give it, I don't know. What do we say? 2 tears out of 5. That sounds weird.
No, that's fine.
I could have cried more, but also I was reading this book in a time this past week where I was, as mentioned before, already very anxious about everything. So my nervous system was fried.
Yeah.
And I feel like I didn't have the space in me to let those emotions just go.
Yeah.
I think on thinking back on it now, I find myself even more emotional than I was reading it. So
I feel the same way. I felt a little bit self-conscious when Hannah and Amanda were texting about crying a bunch at parts, because I did not shed a tear reading this book, but I feel like I could have at certain parts, but I vacillate right now between dead inside or could cry at literally, the throw blanket on the couch. So I'm currently in a slightly dead inside stage. So the tears weren't coming, but I understood why there and when crying could have happened.
can I say I felt anger a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I felt a lot of anger for what the characters were going through and the failings of society, and
yeah, I did go to sleep
strong.
thinking a
past
lot
week.
about greed and, why does anyone need $1 billion? Why does anyone need,
Exactly.
$1 million? And why do we even have things that cost that much money, as far as non-necessities that cost that much money? Obviously, things like infrastructure are expensive, but, yachts, private planes, insanely expensive purses and shoes and stuff like that, Why, and I know why, but just, greed. Why? I wouldn't say anger, just, overwhelming disappointment.
And I listened to an interview on it was a podcast interview of Jordan Ifueko. And it's really cool hearing us talk about these things because she completed her mission and what she was trying to get people to think about with this book, because it was a lot of that. Because she had that Ray Bear world where there's this larger than life figure who, was out to dismantle the oppressive systems and, tear the existing world down to build a new and better one for everyone. And she talked about the author spoke about how she had wondered, like, well, what happens after? And then you have this, these princesses and these stories, and they have this beautiful, clean bed and these dresses to wear. And who did that? The people who made the clothes and the people who cleaned the room, and then the society that has to be rebuilt and what happens after the revolution. And she wanted that to be, forefront in people's minds as they're walking through the life of someone who's there, who is trying to live in this world that's trying to be better. And the systems aren't, they're still, failing in ways, and to bring that to light. And then I think it's amazing how she does. Like, I love how she just puts her in a place in the story where she is given a voice, and then how she chooses to use it, and how she brings home the importance of like the community, and how how she doesn't necessarily have that power just by herself to change things. And that's the reality of a lot of people. By ourselves, we feel helpless. We stand here and like, well, what the heck can I do? But then she goes down with the people. She's like, take me down there to him. This is where you need to be to help things change.
Yeah, it's something that was
awesome.
Really powerful to read, to listen to was that moment when they were flying and he started projecting her singing voice over a crowd, and she's like, no, if we're going to do this, like I'm going to be down there with the people. And that's something that he'd not considered. And also, community is everything. And the parallels between I was thinking so often about A Bug's Life during this movie, because if those puny little ants ever realize that they outnumber us 100-1, our way of life is over. Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Get your own food.
Yeah, I loved that moment. And I loved the story arc for Zuri too, because I had so many mixed feelings about him. And the fact that he was able to learn and change and grow, that was a big piece of his story arc too, was like this, well, like pushing other people to change, but for himself, the hypocrisy of, no, I can't change, and this is what I'm stuck with.
Mm-hmm.
Is Jordan Ifueko in the interview I listened to described him as a beautiful, useless man. Like, she loved writing a beautiful, useless man.
Yeah, I loved that he wasn't like this perfect character, the perfect buff guy that just is there he always helps everything along, and he always says everything right, and there's nothing wrong with him, and it's all about the growth of the main character or whatever, and he just helps her with her growth. I really liked that. all those little imperfections, things about him.
Just to properly credit them, the podcast that did the interview with her was Black Nerds Create. And it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify.
We'll put it in the pod notes.
Well, I feel like in our attempt to stay on topic, we've created a lot more pauses of nobody talking.
I don't think so. I
Probably-
feel like this is not as bad as last time.
As far as pauses? Really?
Yeah,
And
that
I
was
guess
the
you know.
loudest thing to me when I was listening back. I was like, oh my God, someone just say something or breathe.
That's hilarious because I guess it's my own self-consciousness thinking every time I talk, like, why did you open your mouth? You don't have to fill every silence, Sarah. It's an anxiety thing. I don't like when there's awkward
It is an
silence.
anxiety thing. And Sarah, you're not useless. You have a purpose.
I am not useless. That is true.
No, and we're talking about very heavy things often, at least with these last two books. And I am always scared of saying something wrong and hoping I don't, and then not talking because I feel like I must be wrong. Like,
Yeah. On that note, I meant to say this at the beginning of the podcast. When I listened to our first one that we did, I noticed that everybody else was saying reservation and I was saying reserve. And then when I listened to it, I was like, oh my gosh, I must be the biggest dummy. Did I do so? So I did all this research. And for anyone who's wondering, reserve is commonly used in Canada and reservation is used in America. And similar to how I spell gray, Grey, instead of Gray, I think my brain is just in some other country instead of ours. So,
And that's fair. That's really fair.
yeah. But I wanted to share that in case anybody didn't know, because I think it's important to be intentional about the words that we use and to go back and say, hey, I screwed up if I screwed up. So just so everybody's aware. I have two more questions, and the first one may spur a little bit more conversation, but I want to talk about this idea of know your place. Based on how we were raised, which the general overview is highly conservative, a patriarchal culture, when Sade talked about the idea of know your place, and essentially if you just know your place, then everything will be fixed, I resonated so much with that because the system we were raised in created a voice in my head that when things are going wrong, she sometimes pops up and says, Hannah, if you would just be a submissive wife and give into this life of motherhood and not do anything else, then all your problems would be fixed. Didn't you know that? And I have to fight that constantly, but still there's a little desire there that's like, oh, if I just knew my place, then maybe my life would be better. And to see her choose something different was so powerful and affirming for me. Am I the only one who felt that way?
I think I felt the emotions, but I didn't follow through with connecting them to our upbringing. It's clear when you think about it, because I did feel like I could understand why, and I was like, oh no, she's right to just do what she thinks she's supposed to do so nothing bad happens. But then also knowing that it's not the case, that there was so much potential and that there was, a lot more. Sorry. I'm not ready for that tangent, but yes.
Yeah, I knew when I asked that question, I would be opening, speaking of worms, a can of slimy worms.
Of slimy little guilt worms. Yeah, no, I made that connection for sure. I think that I felt it differently because I'm not a mother, but I do feel sometimes that and not to reduce your entire sentence down to just like the motherhood part, but yes, but knowing your societal place, I think the connections were a little bit more vague for me personally, but I don't know if that's true actually. I think that I did have some really personal connections, but less because I feel like the way that we were raised was more heavy on the religious legality. And that's not such a heavy element, I don't think. I mean, it is to an extent, but it's just different. So,
Yeah.
but the patriarchy for sure. Yeah. Definitely felt that one.
I also want to be clear that it's not just so what I was thinking about isn't just like this thing that you do where you quit your job and then do a totally different job that is not paid, where you are a mom and you're taking care of your family. It's not just that action of changing, it's more the mindset of like submitting and my ideas don't matter as much. And if I don't say my ideas and if I just keep everything to myself and become, I know Demure has, an amenity. Demure has other cultural meanings now, but like if I make myself small, then my problems will go away and I don't have to care about other stuff. So just to be clear about that, because I think if you are a parent who stays at home with your kids, that is an amazing and beautiful job, and one that I oftentimes wish that I could do. So just to make that distinction clear.
I missed the beginning of the question because husband and children got home from picking up lunch and one of them fell on the ice in the driveway that's still out there. So they were in here crying and I didn't want to have the crying on the podcast. So I missed the first part of the question. So I have no comment. I'm very sorry.
That's okay.
The commodification is what I related to for sure. Like, yeah, if I just take away all of my emotions and my needs, maybe things would be better. I definitely feel that sometimes. And that's like not true and not good, but it is what kind of we're subliminally and sometimes very like directly told, depending on what spaces you grew up in, especially within conservative, more conservative spaces.
Yeah.
And that to have those needs, like to voice those needs, can be a really dangerous thing. And to like believe that you deserve better can be a dangerous thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the idea that somebody has this innate, unchangeable authority over you simply by virtue of who they were born as.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So to end on a fun note, did anybody else try and think of an amenity? An amenity name for themselves? Like, what would you pick for yourself if you could pick an amenity name for yourself?
Oh man, I didn't think about it, but I could come up with some pretty quickly, probably.
Bidet.
That's a good one.
It's good.
I'm thinking, let's see, milk bags, pantry.
Milk bag sounds like an insult. Like, hey, milk bags.
I have heard that before. Yeah, personal pantry.
Well, it's supposed to be something that people like don't recognize the worth of, but that they would really miss if it weren't there, right?
Pantry unlocker.
Yeah.
Fridge reacher. Apple slicer.
I really like tongs.
Tongs?
Yes.
Yo, how about a strainer, a colander? You ever tried to drain pasta without one of those things? Horrible.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I can't. Dishwasher. Mop rag. A sticky remover. That's not really a thing.
Did you say mop
but what would they
rag?
do? Clean? Yeah, like a mop rag, like a rag you mop stuff up with. That's always, you got to grab the rag to mop the stuff up because there's always stuff everywhere on everything. Sure. And I'm always mopping it up. And if I didn't, they'd be walking around in like puddles of sour milk and sticky fruit juice. And
this is a side tangent, but do any of your children, any of you, do your kids forget to put lids on things? Do they have an aversion to lids?
I do.
I don't think mine are in that stage of where they even have the option to put the lid on things. I'm putting lids on things and taking the lids off,
Yeah. So imagine this. You have a professional chef as a husband who has an aversion to putting lids back on things. Imagine that. Imagine the services in my home. Imagine the amount of face serum that's gone down the drain because the lid was not screwed on.
Oh no.
Anyway, something about a lid. He hates it.
Well, it's been
Thanks.
fun, listener.
Thanks for joining us again. We had 22 streams on our first podcast, which was more than I expected.
All of it was just
thank
me.
you. Amanda's just playing it all night.
Just on a loop.
We'll get our 0.005 cents from Spotify.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Spotify.
We'll make it to a penny in a few years.
Pulling ourselves up by our sandal straps, people.
Yep. Well, this was a fun one.
All right, I have a sandwich getting cold waiting for me.
And this has been It's This or Drugs. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Ma'am, what do I have to do?